One of the most controversial highway projects in Omaha history is about to get an upgrade. Starting tomorrow, work begins on the North Omaha Freeway painting project.
Now, to many, the North Freeway represents a legacy of discrimination against Omaha's African American community. Laura Samble is on your side with what the painting project means and how it will impact drivers.
Everywhere you look along Highway 75 in North Omaha, you see barrels and cones lining the roadway, and they'll likely stay for months to come. Starting Tuesday morning, a new $25 million project to paint bridges across the highway in North Omaha begins. Some people who live nearby welcome the change.
Like down north needs to be a little bit better than what it is right now.
But historian Adam Fletcher-Sassy says the North Omaha Freeway has been a source of contention from the start.
The freeway has never been popular for the people who live in the neighborhoods where it cuts through. It was an idea by the feds, it was an idea by state government, it was an idea by city government in the 1960s.
The idea was that the freeway would connect I-480 with I-680. Fletcher-Sassy says in reality, it sliced Omaha's African American community in half, destroying homes, churches, and businesses, and leaving behind a road full of resentments.
It was very divisive from the moment it was conceptualized all the way through its implementation, which took 30 years to finish.
Painting and lane closures are expected to continue through most of next year. The first bridges to be repainted will be on Lake Street and Binney Street. Next spring, painting will resume on other bridges, including Ames Avenue, Hamilton Street, and the Creighton Pedestrian Bridge. The bridges will also receive structural repairs and the freeways milled and resurfaced. Still, Fletcher-Sassy says the improvements may not be enough to heal deeply felt wounds.
I think this is a bit of a lipstick on a pig situation, where they're trying to do something nice to make it look a little bit better, but in reality, it's still going to be what it is. Divisive, segregating, all kinds of ugly things that have really deeply scarred the entire Omaha community.
Fletcher-Sassy says the best way to start the healing process is to talk with those most affected.
It's so important to really include the African American community, include the low income community, include people who aren't typically and traditionally engaged in Omaha's activities to make the city better.
On your side in Omaha, Laura Samble, 6 News.
Hamilton Street is the suggested alternative while the Lake Street Bridge is being painted.